Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show here with you at 8 p.m. every Monday. Well, we say every Monday, but sometimes we don't make it. But we have made it this time, even though I was up at 4:30 a.m. this morning to take people to the airport. So I'm running on fumes, but that's okay because I have got the Energizer Bunny with me. It's Cornflake. How you doing, sir?
I was sleeping 4:30. I was probably gone to bed about 2 hours beforehand. I'm good. Doing well. Yep. Thinking about I'm trying to re-jog my memory. You know, it was like 2 days ago we last watched rugby. How can we complain about Sunday rugby again? Like, bring back Sunday rugby, man. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, if people want, look, folks, just go back and listen to every single show this season, because the scheduling's been crap. Okay, we talked about that every single week. Scheduling is crap in Super Rugby. But why is there no games on Sunday? Why are there no games on public holidays as well? Why always keep to Saturday, Sunday? If you've got public holidays, use those as well. But no, they don't do any of those things. And you know what? Best way to do it is to talk about is to have a moan at the beginning of the show, obviously. Robbie Reese there in the live chat on Facebook. You can also join us on YouTube and Twitter, or X, or whatever the hell he's calling it this week, and also you can listen back to the podcast as well if you want to do that. Robbie, on Facebook, up the Pacers, up the Wires. Yes, two sports we're not talking about this evening, but one of those, Cornflake Sports, which is the Pacers. And if you want to hear about him and his trip across the USA and going and watching the Pacers, then check out the supporter special that we did. Over at patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio. Wow, I mean, seamless, Steve. Seamless. What a great sales pitch. How you doing, sir?
I'm ticking. Look, hey, before we get on to rugby, Pacers in the conference finals, man. What a day. What a day to be alive. Timberwolves knocking out the Nuggets. What a day to be alive. Oh, it's so good. It's so very good. The big market teams are getting their asses kicked by these small market teams, and it's great to see. So bring on the conference finals, man. T-Wolves Pacers final. You hear it here first. Let's go.
Rugby Gamer says the Timberwolves are down by 20. But one by 8. Oh, I see they came back. I see. There we go. As you can tell, I don't follow NBA that much. Definitely not that closer. That closer.
Nicola, who?
Does the Pacers fan have an Insta? Cornflake, do you have an Insta?
No, I don't. I probably should. I can take photos and stuff and share it.
He's on Twitch. He's on X, Twitch, and YouTube. That's where you can get him. Mainly. Yep. On those, or you can get him in the Cargill, knock on the door of his house and say hello.
Yeah. Good luck. There's not many houses down here.
Exactly. There's only 5. Just choose which one of that. You'll get there pretty quickly. 20%
Says the guy in Waihi. Says the guy up there.
I'll let you know. Waihi in the early 1900s was the 3rd biggest town in New Zealand. It isn't anymore, folks. For those of you from overseas, on that one. Good evening to Simon. He's on the old YouTubes as well. There, he reckons it's going to be Celtics Timberwolves in the final. There we go.
Taking over.
So maybe I'll have to do a quick NBA revision, and we can come back later in the week and do an NBA show as well about all of this this kind of stuff. I mean, Jordan's still good, right?
His son Anthony Edwards, is amazing. Yes.
Dear me, just joking, folks. Anyway, little news then on the rugby side. Glenn Jackson has been appointed as the Fijian Drua head coach next year, taking over from. He is currently assistant, yes, taking over from Mick the Kick, Mick Bryan. He also helped out with the Fijian national team at the Rugby World Cup as well, which is it's an interesting one now. Nocturnal Rights Siestas. Greymouth at the height of the gold rush had 70 pubs on the main street. Oh my God! Wow. Why he got to the stage actually during the gold rush that they thought they were getting overcharged, so they actually voted for prohibition and actually banned beer in town, which is just nuts. I mean, minors not having beer. Anyway, there we go. Someone here says, I'm not surprised Glenn Jackson sounds like he might be a good coach. I guess the main thing here is I don't think any other person has been a player, then a ref, and then a coach. So he's treading his own path, isn't he, Steve?
That's true. Yeah, I never thought about it like that. But yeah, he kind of, he's not doing himself anything bad, is he? Like, he seems to be doing very well at each sort of thing. You know, he's a very solid player. He's probably up there with one of the best referees in his time as well. And now he seems to be making way in that coaching circles as well. You can see the kind of impact. I think his knowledge would be priceless, right? Going through knowing the laws as a player, knowing the laws as a referee enforcer of it, and now being able to pass that on as a coach for players. I think that sort of knowledge is priceless, because you look at a lot of teams these days actually employ former referees as just referee, what do they call them? Just to try and help the teams negotiate with the change of referees and how they interpret laws, and from a referee's perspective rather than just from a coach's or player perspective. So hey, two birds, one stone, right? And he seems to be doing pretty well at it. So yeah, good on him. Yeah,
no, good on him. Wish him the best. Obviously, this
all I can say is wait till Angus Gardner does it. Then we'll see it all fall to pieces.
Wayne Barnes, give up the lawyering and come in, start using coaching. Look, from memory, look, he was an advisor or some sort of role at the Crusaders initially. Then obviously went over and has been an assistant at the Drua since their inception, and now he's taking over there. So good on him. Good luck to him. But doing the next level will be kind of key, as in, being an assistant coach, where you're dealing with a lot of the technical side of things, to becoming the head coach, where it's a bit more strategy as overall, and lots of man management side of things. Is going to be interesting to see how he does. It takes that step up, because it is a different role. We've seen some coaches be very good assistants and be pretty average head coaches. So look, I think it's good luck to him, and in that one. And we do want to see the Fijian and Drua climbing up. In the live chat there, the reviewer says, until the Drua start winning away games and they can't be considered title contenders. Yeah, agreed. I don't think we are we're not trying to say they're going to be title contenders. We're just saying they've got a new coach next year. That's all. Moni Nawaya has re-signed until 2026 with New Zealand Rugby. Now he is a one-cap All Black currently. He did get capped last year. Then obviously had the back injury, which forced him out of the Rugby World Cup. And so I think for him, that's probably a good move, actually. There's a new coach coming in. Look, he's playing well in Super Rugby. Has definitely an opportunity of being in the All Blacks. Will he be a first choice winger? Not initially, I wouldn't have thought, because obviously you've got the incumbents in Sever Rees and Mark Salia, who he's got to get past. But I think he's very much part of the mix, and therefore a good choice for him at the age of 24.
I think it's a good choice too, in the length of time he's picked there too, whether that was his choice or whether that was what was offered. But that gives him a bit of a chance to evaluate, like you say. He's got some guys in front of him. He's kind of in that mix. In a year or two, hopefully injury-free, right? He'll be able to evaluate where he is. Does he go for that World Cup dream? Is he in that position at the end of that year, or does he go for money? Because you know what? Once you get to that sort of position, that's when you start to get looked at. When you become a standout Super Rugby player, that's when those overseas clubs start knocking for a guy like him. So, he'll evaluate. I think that, to me, I would be like, you wanted to tie him down to the World Cup if you're thinking he's in that sort of mix of players. But yeah, for him, I think he's done himself well there to look after himself a bit better. Because hey, we know those types of players, right? They look after themselves and family first. So, and I think he fits that sort of mold is what he's looking to do. So yeah, good. I think he's in the mix. I think he's been one of the best wingers this season. Yep. You'd probably even say he's up there in the top three. He's really worked well. I think his composure's gone really well this year. He doesn't kind of get flustered. He seems to have a bit more time on and off the ball, and just his all-round game seems to be a bit better just mentally, which is not saying you can really say about a player of his age previously. So yeah, I think he's developed well with this time off, and I certainly, if you're picking the All Blacks right now, he'd be in my mix for sure.
Yep. The talking about All Blacks mix, the stuff have brought out their latest barometer of who's going to play against test against England. I think we're a couple of weeks before when you should do that. So we're going to do that after the regular season has wrapped up, and we'll dip back into that probably after the quarterfinals, because our post show after round 15 will be giving our season reviews to all the teams that haven't made it, or all 4 teams that haven't made it into the finals. Yeah, it's only 4, isn't it? Jeez. Actually, it's the same number to review after the quarterfinals. Maybe we'll do the All Blacks thing after round 15 after all. So yes, so we'll be one of those couple of weeks where we'll do that, and obviously have a look at that. I was trying to think. Oh yeah, we'll suddenly have half the teams. Oh no, it's not NRL. We've got less. We've only got 4 teams to review and say whether they had a good or bad year on that one. So yes, so it's the so on that one we'll see. Rugby Gamer, who do you think will be hosting the final? Well, either the Blues or the Hurricanes. It's going to come down to their games against the Chiefs, I think, and the way that the Chiefs stumbled at the weekend, or didn't impress at the weekend. You've got to say that actually the Blues at the moment, because they got the points on the board. They're currently top of the table, so it's in their hands at the moment. So yeah, Eden Park, here we come. Well, actually, no, I'll be watching it from home, but a whole bunch of other people. Hopefully, they might even get somewhere like maybe even 90% full. I mean, let's not push ourselves to be actually a sellout, but for a Super Rugby final. But hopefully, it will be on that one.
Well, what was the attendance of that Phoenix game in the weekend as well? That was a sellout at the Cape Town. But I never actually looked at the numbers. If they can sell out a semi-final technically, or a preliminary final, why can't Super Rugby? Sure, that was history defining. First real time they've had a real chance that competition, end up losing anyway. But they could sell that out. 33,000 says Simon in the chat. Dude, that's incredible. Why can't rugby do that? I saw it say sell out, but you know what they do. Oh, sell out, but that stands shut. They do a little bit of that. That's a legit sellout of the Cape Town, man. So why can't Super Rugby do it? In fact, Super Rugby should do it.
No, look, Super Rugby final at Eden Park should sell out. It should be the full 40,000 or whatever the number is. Not so much daytime final would be nice. It would be nice, but yeah. Look, if it's Blues Hurricanes, it absolutely should be. I mean, there's no reason for it not selling out, apart from piss poor marketing. Nocturnal Rights daytime final would be nice. Yeah, it might be, but let's be brutal about this. It's going to be a 7 p.m. kickoff, because that is when the Eden Park was. Rugby Game says 26,000 at Eden Park the other weekend, same as at Dunedin. Yep. But yes, so they should do better than that, and that's obviously a what do you call it? A regular season game. Simon says New Zealand is a one-off event type of people. And Steve is nodding his head. I mean, the NPC final between Auckland and Canterbury was an absolute cracker at Eden Park. Now it helped. Look, it went into overtime. It was one of those ones you just can't script, because you'd go, yes, that's too Hollywood. That's not going to happen. But it was a cracking game in that one, and a cracking crowd, and it peed it down as well. So they ended up having to open up different stands that had cover to try and get people to stay dry. It was one of the things you've got to say. What would have been very easy for the Eden Park management to do at that point would be to say, sorry, folks, we're not. This is what we've opened up. This is what our stewards have done. This is what we've planned for, and to just stick with it. But no, they were flexible enough to say, look, yep, let's get everyone out these open stands into the closed main stand. Sure, it doesn't look so good on camera, because that's the stand that the cameras are in. Hence, that's why they don't open it up when they're not going to fill the place. But yeah, no, well done to Eden Park on that day and the way they ran it. That was a disgrace to give tickets away for the free to devalue the event. Oh no, not at all. It was a cracking event, and got people along that wouldn't have normally turned up otherwise. In the early days, Super Rugby wasn't in the daytime. I'm sure 25 years ago it was, but the commercial pressures on the game were very different back then as well on that one.
You look at the old school NPC games, right? Have you seen? I was watching some. I don't know what it was. The Highlanders put up some highlights of Brendan Laney or something weird like that. Sort of throwback sort of thing. And man, like NPC for Otago, just to don't worry about who's playing, but just it was packed. And it's just like, man, what have we done so wrong? What have we lost? What's gone from the game that we don't get that in Super Rugby now? Sure, like we've got different competitions. The professionalism has changed a lot. But, man, we should be getting massive crowds like that, packing out just like that. Money. Oh, I thought that was a stadium in the middle there. Yeah, money. Exactly, it is money. But still, there's the love of the game not there anymore for people, right? Like, sure,
look, I've not read that book, and I should read that book. But the at the end of the day, the marketing people have gone over to have ignored the fan that turns up, and has sold to TV. There was a way of balancing that, but they never did, and they were just too complacent and too arrogant to realize kind of what they were doing by killing a lot of the soul of the game in the way they worked with TV. Now, they could have worked with TV, as I say, better, and it could have. I just realized I've got no power in my thing. My daughters have been here the weekend, and all my cables are not where they should be.
Oh, he's gone. And, we can still hear him. We can't see him. Oh.
So yes, you can't see me, but I'll restart the camera now, and I'm back. It's the wrong camera. Jeez, I say, kids playing with my computer, with my studio. How dare they? I love having them. Don't get me wrong. It's great. These are the little things you I've got to put up with afterwards. I didn't want the computer dying and suddenly shutting down halfway through. New Zealand's a small broadcast market. Look, it's just anyway. Doesn't matter. Let's move on from that one. Any news from your end?
Nah, I don't think so. Let me have a quick squeeze through what's happened in the week.
So look, I've not been keeping in touch with what's been going on in European rugby, to be honest with you. So but I thought I'd just check in on the BBC Rugby Union page, and what's the headline there? Cutting number of regions still an option. WRU, Welsh Rugby Union. So yes, it's good to see that nothing changes, and that it's still a mess over there. So yes, it'll be fun. So I need to get back in touch with that. The Attacking Scrum Rugby podcast is good for that kind of stuff. So I need to get back into listening to them and figure out what's going on over there, because it's a bit of a mess over in Welsh Rugby by the looks of things. They had a bit of a shocking season. Let's be honest. Canada beat the Black Ferns for the first time ever this last weekend. The Black Ferns have now lost to 5 different teams in their history. They've played, I believe, 124 games. In that time, they've won 104 of them, which is an amazing record. Let's be honest. 11 losses to England, 5 to France, 1 to Ireland, 1 to the USA, and 1 to Canada now in this one. And I don't think that's a bad thing, in all honesty, having a loss to Canada. We want to have competitive teams. Canada were the 4th and now are the 3rd ranked team in the world. So it's not like they're losing to a weak team by any stretch of the imagination. But good to see the women's game being competitive, in all honesty. It's otherwise, if it's always going to be one team winning, why watch it?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, bad instant result, right? When for the country, the nation, oh no, they've lost. But hey, yeah, I agree with you. If you just have the same 2 teams or 1 team or 3 teams winning every single game, yeah, it makes it not fun. That's what like football has so good. Like you see, you go to a football World Cup and FIFA World Cup, you start the competition. And it's like, hey, there is literally like 8 to 10 teams that can win this competition. It's who shows up on the day, who has a bad day, a good day. Rugby World Cup, not so much, right? But I think it's getting better, right? We can actually go into competition and say, hey, there's 4 or 6 teams that can win. So the more we get of that, of all leagues and all genders, good for the game, good to watch, makes it more exciting and less predictable.
Dear me, apparently the reviewers challenged me to say that Canada is 2nd now. Well, not according to the World Rugby's website, which I'll bring up. There we go. Good to defend my knowledge. That's now maybe that hasn't been updated yet for the results from the weekend, and maybe that will change tomorrow. But that says 20th of May. So that was today.
Today.
So the official one says the 20th of May reset. Let's just give it a quick reset. He says it's not been updated. Well, okay, we'll see. Maybe I'm not. I'm trying to go with the facts. I'll be honest. Let's be honest. I don't follow. I tried following women's rugby for a while, but at the end of the day, let's be honest, folks, that I've scaled this back a little bit, and so that's on my bandwidth, how much time I spend on this, so hence one of the things that I gave up was the women's side of the game, and just concentrate on one thing, which generally we talk about men's rugby. I'm not going to talk about the game for the weekend because I didn't watch it. I can't say anything about it intelligently, and that's why I don't want to be dumbing it down. But I just thought it was news that they'd lost their first ever game, or that Canada had beaten them for the first ever time. So I thought I'd just mention it from that point of view. But we don't talk about sevens either on that side of things because, again, I just don't watch it. Don't know anything about it. Apparently, Jamaica beat Bermuda 19-14. Again, yes. I don't know if that's the men's or the women's side of the game or what's going on. So, we can't really comment on that one. But well done, Jamaica. There with that one, according to the reviewer. So if that's fake news, then blame him, not me.
Hey, then signing news. I knew there was signing news, so I scrolled back to see. Ulster has signed Aidan Morgan from the Hurricanes, who played in the weekend just gone by. I thought that was massive news because I rate him quite highly. He's off end of the season, I guess. And apparently, I'm not sure if there's 100% right, but is Irish qualified in some regards. So, yeah. You don't quote me 100% on that one, but there has been mumblings of that as well. So I think that's a huge loss, not only for the Hurricanes but also for New Zealand rugby as well. I've considered him, or I ranked him quite highly as a prospect, alongside your Ruben Loves and guys like that. So to me, that's a big one. That's a big loss.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not because it's been kind of a breakthrough season for him as well, I would say. No, I was thinking Josh Morby, sorry. Wrong name there as well.
No, the 10/15. Never know if these guys these days.
Yeah, I guess, look, he's not had the opportunity. He's not had the opportunities particularly this year. When he did play in the game at Palmerston North, he looked really good. Absolutely. So, but with players like Ruben Love and Brett Cameron in your way, to potentially starting All Blacks this coming week, this season, it's tough to get game time. And so if someone's going to give you a nice big contract in Ulster, and you're Irish qualified, I mean, his name sounds Irish qualified.
Well, that's true.
So why not?
I mean, he could have gone to the Highlanders or the Crusaders. They could have done it for 10. Let's be honest. Pretty much most unions could do with a 10. Do we going to go back to the Crusaders? Stockpiling all those 10s back in the day when they had Carter and they had Mertens and they had Major and all that. And you're like, why can't Auckland have a 10? Now it's like, why can't every other team have a 10?
And Colin Slade and and a few other,
The list goes on.
I mean, good on him. 22. Wow. And this is the sign that New Zealand rugby is in trouble long term, as far as the All Blacks are concerned, because historically you'd lose players at 29, 32 if they hadn't broken through. You had the odd one like Evans, who went off to play for Harlequins. What was his first name? I've gone blank.
Garrett.
Now played for the Blues. Was behind Dan Carter, and so decided to go off to Northern Hemisphere. Sorry,
Nick Evans.
Nick Evans, thank you. Yep.
Oh, the Highlanders.
But on the whole, it wasn't until they were 30 plus that they would go once the All Blacks didn't want them anymore. Nick Evans, there we go. Highlander. I thought he was
a Highlander. Highlander. Tony Brown, Nick Evans. That was your path of 10s of the Highlanders. You got quite a few though. You got a few 10s from that era. You had Nick
Oh,
Evans,
he's
Jimmy
born in
Goppin.
Auckland. Okay, so that's why I think it is. He was born in Auckland and was a North Harbour player. Oh, so no wonder he didn't make it. A North Harbour and Auckland player. He did have a couple of seasons in Otago. No wonder he didn't make it to the Blues. He was a North Harbour player. He did play for the Blues. 12. He played longer for the Highlanders. I agree, but he got 12 caps for the Blues as well.
He was at his peak at the Highlanders. Yeah.
The Highlanders from 04 to 07, and then played 08 at the Blues before heading over to overseas.
Oh, did he go to the Blues last? No, he was washed by then.
Before heading over to Harlequins in 08. Yep, he was washed by then. Deary me.
We had Lima Sopawanga then, so we didn't need him. Moved on.
I think the link was a bit after that, to be honest with you.
Was he? He's got to find it first.
Quick Googling.
No.
Lima Sopawanga, 2008 he left, right. Highlanders, 2011. Yes, just 3 years afterwards.
We prepared.
Simon says, "Where's the Silver Lake money? That has to solve our problems." Well, look, we've already, I think we talked about this last week or the week before, where New Zealand Rugby is talking about reducing the amount of money they're giving out to the provinces, basically, and we talked about a month or two ago that basically Silver Lake hasn't grown the income as it said it would do. Funny that, and hence the income for New Zealand Rugby is actually going to go down, not go up like was suggested. So there we go. But losing a player at 22, a promising player like that, is where does show that these last 4 years, they've been getting younger. And obviously, Charles Piatow was perhaps the first one that went that everyone was like, oh my God. I mean, he was supposed to be the next All Blacks winger, had a contract, had signed it, but hadn't handed it back. And therefore didn't break anything legally when Ulster walked in with $1 million and went, hey, would you like to play for us? And let's be blunt. If we talked about it earlier with Nawaya, that look, if you've got a family to support, an extended family like that, because I think Charles Piatow talks about sort of growing up with sort of like 12 or so people in the house, people who sleep in the garage because there wasn't room in the house, that kind of stuff. If that's your background, then you're doing the right thing, taking that. And for Nawaya, when you were talking about him thinking about family first and stuff, that's not a criticism. That is us saying that's absolutely how he. That's absolutely is right, and how he should think, if that's how he wants to think about those sort of things. So someone walks up with $1 million, you're going to. I thought there's no news to talk about today, and we're 27 minutes in. Should we actually talk about some games?
You go on.
So first up, Hurricanes versus Moana Pacifica. There's been a whole bunch of noise this year still. Let's drop Moana Pacifica. They're not good enough. They're awful. And what do? They hold the Hurricanes to 32 points, which a lot of other teams would be very happy to have done this season. To be blunt with you, the Hurricanes scored 36 points against the Chiefs. So they scored more points against the Chiefs than they did against the Highlanders. So look, they did against Moana Pacifica. So Moana Pacifica, definitely a team moving in the right direction. Did we expect them to win this game? No. Did we expect them to be this close? No. I was expecting this to be a 20-point game, not an 8-point game. Impressed by Moana in this one, that they managed to keep this one so close. And considering they only kicked 40% at sticks, it could have been closer.
Yeah, I agree. This game, I didn't predict it would be close. I thought it would be a blowout. And, Moana's had a lot of blowouts this season as well, haven't they? Especially against the top team. So, look, the Hurricanes rested a lot of players, right? So, I guess I'll get that out of the way first. This was kind of and they've done it a number of times this season. And typically they come away with it looking like, wow, they've actually got a really deep squad that they can actually push these guys around and move them around and still perform at a really, really high level. But this is a game where, something up with Moana. They just, and this is what's positive for me about this game, is they never gave it up, right? And normally when you watch the games throughout the season, you look at it and go, what were they down? They're down 19-0, right? You look at it and go, well, they're going to throw it out the door. They're done. They'll just put her away. Maybe later on they'll try and get at least a try or something like that. But to pull it back and get within 2 points, 20, 30 minutes later on, and then really actually push the Hurricanes right to the very, very end was, incredible for them. So fantastic. It's all well and good to lose a game, right? I don't think that was what we really learned about this. We knew the Hurricanes were going to win. The fact of the matter, what I really liked about this game is that Moana didn't throw the towel in. They just kept fighting. They kept pushing. They came back. They threw some more at them. Things started to work. And, of course, players really stood up for them as well. So, hey, a really, really good result. And, I mean, you look through the stats of that game, which amazed me as well, which I hadn't looked at before. And they really matched up in just about all the areas. Like, they never really got smashed in any sort of area. Penalty count was even. The meters run was, about 100 difference, which, isn't a huge blowout. Possession and territory was fairly close. So they really competed on most fronts, which I think is the most encouraging thing out of this game that you look at, like we did, last week. And we go, well, that's an easy, 20-point win for the Canes. So, start really well, perform nicely. And I think they can, keep their battle going, because they could still be a troublesome team for players as they get down the stretch in this one. They've got a massive match coming up this weekend as well for them. So, positive. A lot of positives for me from that game for Moana. On the Hurricane side, hey, like I said earlier, they changed a lot. They brought back Harry Godfrey for game number 2, as that magic man. So it's good to see the depth in that team get a bit of run out, a bit of game time. Like we saw, Morgan got a run this week as well, which is nice. So, I mean, they really do have good depth, the Hurricanes. And that was a really good test for them. And I think maybe that'll be the last time those guys run out, unless it's injuries later on.
But they need to run out in case of injuries. So you should be rotating it there.
But most teams aren't, though.
True.
Not to that depth.
It says William Havili didn't have the best game. Yeah, look, I mean, getting charged down just after you'd scored wasn't the best thing. And that kind of stuff can really make heads drop. But as you say, they didn't. They kept going, which shows good character in this team. I was a bit pissed off by the commentator. At the beginning of the game, he goes that Moana beat the Hurricanes 2 years ago. They're only winning against New Zealand teams. No. Moana beat the Hurricanes 2 years ago. It was their first ever win. How about actually, not talking them down and actually say, look,
a great game.
That was a crack. I was there. That was brilliant.
That's where the Tuala kicked it out from his own 22, didn't he? And chased that down like 80-meter run. Oh, dude, the commentary for that passage was best commentary. That if you want to really get yourself excited about some rugby commentary, go watch that clip. That was phenomenal. And
it was lovely to interview the guy afterwards as well. In that, so somewhere on the channel you can get the interview with him after that one. He was it wasn't. Let's be honest, that's not the kind of thing you expect to do when you've been signed up. And you're like, was it third or fourth game? Only the third or fourth game. It was early in the season as well, which admittedly probably gave them a bit more expectation and hope than they actually perhaps deserved that year. But there we go. On this one though, some comments in the chat about expanding things that might get the Pumas, Jaguares, and Cheetahs by 2026. Please no. Rugby competitions full stop work well when they're in the similar time zones. Having games at 3 o'clock in the morning doesn't help anybody. So please don't do that. Is my wish. Next up then, Rebels versus the Chiefs, 23 to 26 in this one. A lot closer than a lot of us expected. Again, in this one, 3 tries to 2 tries. The difference in this game ended up being that Dane McKenzie notched over all his kicks, whereas Nick Just the 12. So a bit surprised seeing that I've gone blank as the
Carter Gordon.
Carter Gordon. A bit surprised Carter Gordon wasn't kicking in this one, but there we go. was kind of the difference. And again, also the difference was that you get your nose in front, and you kick those penalties to keep your nose in front, which is what the Chiefs did. They got the nose in front, keeps kicking penalties to keep themselves in front. And then a penalty at the death to win it as well. Whereas you're forcing the Rebels to chase the game, they're not going to kick penalties. They're going to go for tries, and hence, even though the penalties was 11 conceded by the Rebels, 8 by the Chiefs, the notched over 4 penalties to only 2 by the Rebels, and the Rebels' missed kicks were conversions as well. So it wasn't like they were taking penalties and missing them. On that one, so it's to my mind, it just came down to the kicking. In this was a difference between these two teams, and that scoreboard pressure, something that I talk about and harp on about a lot. Let's be honest. Again, another much closer game, and giving you some ammunition as to why you think the Chiefs basically are not a top 3 team, but they're not.
Load up the gun. I'll just say, told you so. I said it last weekend. I was almost ready to absolutely go nuts on that when it was tied up at the end. Hey, if you're going to complain about the commentary for Moana game, can I complain about the commentary for this game? Because do I really want to listen to these old guys screaming on about how amazing Damien McKenzie is when he's really not doing anything? Like, it wasn't. Did you, honestly, okay, did you find him that good in this game? Did he run that well? His kicking at goal was good. I'll give you that. But did he direct the team very well? Did he run very well? Again, when I seen him actually do good things, it was in broken play. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, look, that's why he's built his entire game, or his entire his career around is that broken play. But it's a matter of, can you create the broken play for him to do his thing? Then if your team can, then great. Play to the strengths of your players.
I don't see anyone from 10 having a chance in broken play aside from when they cover fullback, which baffles me. But regardless, right? I just got tired of that commentary. I listened to McKenzie's doing brilliantly, and literally he's just caught the ball and passed it. It just irks me a little bit that it seems like they've got a vendetta just to talk him up like he's going to be fantastic all season. But regardless, for me, Rebels, penalties really let them down in this one. You arrive the kicker, Just is normally off the bench and normally comes on the wing. So to see him starting and taking those kickings, but I do agree. Nocturnal said in the chat there that Carter's kicking badly. He normally seems every game this season he's scuffed one. Normally his first or second kick, he really scuffs it bad. Doesn't even get under it. It goes wayward. It goes completely off the mark. So I can kind of see why they've gone with that. Although I do think he's a decent goal kicker. Just consistency's not really in his game to push that way through. But hey, the Rebels are a good team this season. They did well to get back in that game. They were down pretty bad at the break. They were back right in the game with the break. It was this 2-point game. And the Chiefs pushed it out just after with that try. After Noah's got his try turned away. So they really were always in this race. But I think in the second half, just keep giving away penalties when they really need to try and push on attackingly, cost them in the end. And that's, I've kind of harped on a lot about this with a lot of these teams, especially the teams that are struggling to get wins in these sort of situations. They're not taking the kickoff after they've scored and clearing their own half well enough. They'll concede a penalty. They'll knock it on. And you don't need to do that, twice against a team like the Chiefs, the Hurricanes, the Blues, the Brumbies, any of those sides. If you don't exit and put a team back near halfway, you're going to just give them straight back an attacking chance. And so, you know what? Hey, you've done well. You've fought. You've battled. You've pushed your way in to score. And then you've just given them an opportunity straight back. That, to me, is what hurt the Chiefs definitely through the latter parts of that matchup. But yeah, hey, Rebels, I loved Rebels. I thought they really, really played well. That last penalty was a bit, did you find that a bit, I know it was a penalty, but boy, they milked the shit out of that, didn't they? Like that poor lad, they just saw him on the wrong side and I was just just dump him, just trap him in there, don't let him out. And I mean, it's in the laws, I get it. I'm not complaining, but it's like, come on, Chiefs, come on. I'm going to bring Stephen in a second, but one thing about the referees this weekend,
was that they made the hard calls at the end of games that they had to do.
I'm not complaining about the call at all.
No, yeah,
I'm not complaining. I just saw it and I'm like, man, you've really you've milked it. You've done well, but should have it got to this point? And I thought, man, poor Rebels. But yeah, we'll be saying poor later on, won't we?
Well, yes. Good evening, Mr. Harris. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen. Great to be back on the show. You guys have been carrying the show for the first part of this year, guys. I've sort of certainly enjoyed tuning in, but great to be here.
So, you've got yourself some sound deadening stuff behind you. Why have you gone all pro on us?
I don't know about all pro, just more private than anything else. I haven't had a chance to stick all the jerseys up behind me, so I will get in there. But it's good to be on the show. Good to be talking a little bit of code as well. Just on the back of what Steve was saying about the Rebels game. Steve, do you think it was a case of maybe with the weather, maybe the Rebels may have dragged the Chiefs down a little bit to their level?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that it was the Rebels kind of controlled the flow of the game, didn't they? The Chiefs, to their credit, took their chances when they got them, and that was, again, like I've always spoke about with these lower half sides. They often, like the Highlanders, Moana, like the Rebels, they're not lower half, but they still fit into that category. They get into the areas, but they often struggle to put points on quickly, and they take 5, 10, 15 minutes of constant pressure to put it away. Where you see the top teams like the Chiefs and the Hurricanes, that they get into the 22, they score within less than 10 phases. I think it's a big difference. But yeah, the Rebels certainly dragged it down into their game, which is dangerous for them.
The Rebels' last ever home game. Well, look, we have to see if they exist again next year.
Well, they'll be in a different stadium, won't they?
Maybe. Who knows? I mean, there's just so much, in the air. Now, look, one of the reasons I wanted to get Stephen Harris on is because there was some big news at the weekend with Sid Going passing away. Now, he's someone that I don't remember because I wasn't sort of following the All Blacks back in those days. Cornflake might do, but I know Sid Going, being a Northland man, someone that Stephen definitely watched, and Stephen knew the family or knows the family as well. I just thought we'd have. Really wanted to get Stephen on just to give a little tribute about Sid Going, because he was such a big figure in the New Zealand rugby scene. And say I can't talk about him because I didn't get to watch him play back then. So over to you, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, well, I got this news on a Saturday morning, just sent through via a journalist friend around about 8 o'clock Saturday morning, and I really had to read the message twice. But yeah, a bit of a heck of a shock, not just to the New Zealand rugby community, but also North Auckland or Northland or North Auckland as it was back in the day, and of course his own club, Mid Northern, and yeah, just obviously all the tributes over the last few days just probably says it all. But anybody who saw Sid Going playing, probably fair to say, he's one of our great, a little bit like Aaron Smith, one of our great running halfbacks. Probably didn't have the best pass ever, but boy, just knew how to sniff out a try close to the line. He was that sort of player, maybe sort of a little bit like George Gregan and Aaron Smith wrapped up. But like I say, there was always question marks about his pass, but he was a very skillful goal kicker as well. They when they shot off to South Africa in 1976, unfortunately, they often say the first person you should pick in a team is a goal kicker, and of all places, not to take half decent goal kickers. They took some very good first fives, and I think it was Duncan Robinson and Doug Bruce and guys like that who were very, very good first fives in their own right, running first fives as well. But unfortunately, the kicking percentages, you could probably say, cost them tests in the South Africa. But anybody who can think back to the 1971 Shield Challenge, I don't know if it's probably any of my vintage watching the show, but against Auckland at Eden Park, he'd basically given away a try, and the three brothers were playing, and they got a penalty on halfway, and Sid said to his brother Ken, "Well, have a shot at goal." And And Ken turned around, and the late Ken Going turned around and said to him, "No, you gave the last try away. You take the shot at goal." And he calmly stepped up from 52 metres and knocked it over. This is where you got to think back then. This was a leather ball, not what the types of rugby balls they use in this day and age. So yeah, just an absolute legend. And of course he was fantastic for commentators as well, because they'd often say going, go on, and it was pretty much the catch guy. He must have been a heck of a frustrating player to play with, because obviously on a lot of occasions he went on his own. Nobody knew what he was doing, and probably only said, "Bless you, mate." Probably only he knew what he was doing. I've got to share a little bit of a funny story though. I was when I was commentating for NZME back at O'Hara Park. In those days it was known as. We were doing a commentary, and your commentary was basically in a little area where all the supporters were around you. And of course, Sid's son Jared was playing for North Auckland that night, and he wasn't having the best of games. And myself and the co-commentator we weren't berating him, but we were just suggesting it wasn't his best night. And unbeknownst to me, Sid Going and his wife Colleen were just sitting to the left of me, and I happened to turn left. And boy, if looks could kill, I probably wouldn't be here today, guys. But we had a bit of a chuckle about it later. But yeah, just an absolute great player. And all I can say to anybody who didn't see him, just jump on YouTube and have a look. I don't know. He must have been a coal miner in his day, because he seemed to find his way, almost like score tries underground, get through the feet of forwards, which wasn't really a place to be back in the day, especially if you went down to places like Southland and Otago, where sitting in the bottom of a ruck probably wasn't the place to be.
Gold miner, Steve. Remember where I am in Waihi. Gold miner, not coal miner.
Miners. Yeah,
he was getting gold down there. He was scoring gold.
Yeah, very, very, very much so. So, yeah, a sad loss. I think he played about 128 games for North Auckland back then, and probably maybe about 28 appearances. Not a lot of appearances, but that, remembering this was over a 10-year decade, and back in the day, I think Steve might agree with, they were probably only playing 3 to 5 tests a year. So. Where now they can play up to 13 or 14 tests a year, so you can rack them up very, very quickly. But he was part of a very interesting going family. There was Ken, who played fullback, and Sid was at halfback, and of course Brian at first five, and they pretty much invented the triple scissors, where people were running everywhere, and if you weren't defensively in tune with what these guys were actually doing at the time, it was an exciting brand of rugby, if you know what I mean. So that was back in the day, where probably defences aren't as tight as they are at the moment. But boy, they were a heck of a watch, and they attracted a lot of crowds to back to O'Hara Park in the day.
I don't know if perhaps that tour to South Africa had anything to do with him being being sort of New Zealand Maori as well, but he played for those guys as well. 29 appearances for the All Blacks. Now I'm not sure that's tests or appearances, because I think he had more appearances than that. But 10 tries in test matches, 23 in All Blacks games. So 10 tries in test matches for a number 9 is, especially back in those days, is impressive back then. Huge. So yeah, absolutely
huge.
So 29 tests. Thank you, nocturnal rights. But he played a chunk more All Blacks games, because then back in the days, not all Blacks games were test matches, because they played a lot more of the provincial sides when they toured back in the days. It wasn't just one game against Munster every decade, like it seems to be nowadays.
Oh, listen, there were a couple of really great halfbacks around at the time. Gareth Edwards as well, who played for Wales, was fantastic, but in his career was also in a battle with Chris Laidlaw as well, who was a very, very good footballer from down your ways, Steve. I think he might have been maybe an Otago man or a Wellington man, but boy, that's such a long time ago. But a great competitor who will never be forgotten. He was fondly farewell today in his hometown of Murumaku, I think they were of Mormon faith as well, so hence the ceremony wasn't the biggest, but oh boys, so many good players have been spawned from that going family. The likes of Todd Miller, who played for back for the Chiefs. I think that might be a nephew, of course. Brad Miller as well. Another nephew, Jared going, Adrian going, who all played for Northland. So crazy. There's so many goings. Once upon a time, I think back in the 70s, the only way you ever made the Northland team is if you played for Mid-Northern. It seemed like whenever the Northland team were named, everybody would go, "Oh God, it's Mid-Northern again." So, well, they certainly celebrated in certain style, because it was a top of the table clash up at Carmo the weekend. The unbeaten Carmo team played Mid-Northern, but I had a friend at the game, and he said, "Mate, they didn't have a hope in hell. Mid-Northern was so fired up in the day. There was plenty of emotion, and they came away with the win. So they definitely dedicated that one to Sid guys. But hey, it's life, isn't it, fellas?
Absolutely, yeah. You mentioned his faith. He was a bishop for the Latter-day Saints Church for 7 years, apparently, and was the president of the Hamilton in New Zealand Temple as well. So there you go. So yeah, absolutely, yeah. Faith was a big thing for him as well. Inducted into the New Zealand Hall of New Zealand Sports Hall of Fame in 2020 as well. So passed away at the age of 80. So yeah, thoughts on his family, and a small giant of the game here. I've stolen that off someone in the live chat, by the way. That little.
They people were saying up north, yes, a giant kauri has fallen. Not the tallest kauri tree you'd ever see, but definitely a kauri. Always will be a kauri, and I don't know. There was something for me when you see a lot of those jerseys that look retro now, just to see no branding, just a kauri tree, a little bit like Southland when you just saw the S on the brand. I think there's something really special. I think maybe something rugby could actually think about and have a little bit of a retro round, something like that, wearing their own jerseys. But listen, Paul, thanks for the time, for letting me come on and having a bit of a natter about it. But listen, just on Super Rugby, I got to say, I must admit I've actually been enjoying this year's competition. It's been really close, and boy, the Australian sides, they're no more a pushover, are they?
No, we'll get back onto the games in a second, but got to share for those of us who are for our people from overseas. That's the Northland rugby logo with your tree on it. Hence the comments that that Stephen's been saying. Conflict. I haven't given you an opportunity to come in and if you had any anything you wanted to say as part of that, or whether Stephen had covered it all.
Oh, his knowledge would far exceed mine on those days of rugby. It's a little bit before my time, but in terms of watching, but in terms of the name, I mean, it's an iconic name with New Zealand rugby, isn't it? I mean, the Goings alone themselves, even these days, are iconic, well-known name from New Zealand rugby. So, people these days, no matter what their age, said, geez, 80 years old, man, too young. It's really not good, man. But yeah, a big loss, a massive figure, massive player. And from highlights I've seen, yeah, I agree with what Stephen says. Those rugby was so different those days, right? It's not like today where it's so structured and it's so planned and preset. Back then, like you say, you go on little nuggety adventures like a gold miner or whatever. That's just how they worked, right? They just spot and they'll react instinctively. And he was, a guy that would get the ball and had that ability to do that from, clips I've seen of him. Really strong for his size and his stature. Just lifted the team up, and one of the most iconic names from that era, I think. And the family as well in New Zealand rugby. So yeah, the massive loss, huge loss. But what a family they are.
Right then, let's head back to the Super Rugby games now. Then and feel free to stay with us to go through these ones as well. But the Drua against the Reds, perhaps not the most efficient or most sort of technically great game in this one. I mean, the Reds lost 7 lineouts, sorry, or a third of their lineouts in this game. But they got off Vunivalu, biggest waste of money for Australian rugby ever. I mean, trips a player to give away a penalty try in the first 4 minutes, and then trips a player again in the second half for a red card. Doing the same thing back twice. That's a coach killer, surely.
It's so dumb, isn't it? I can't believe it. Knock yourself out. I'll rage about Vunivalu later.
I was going to say maybe the trip back to Fiji, he decided to get on the carver, a little bit more, around family, a little bit more relaxed. Maybe not quite so focused on the game, but overall, I've got to say, I've been really disappointed with Suliasi Vunivalu since he's returned. He shows glimpses, doesn't he? Especially when there's a cross-field high kick. You know that he's probably going to nail that 9 times out of 10. But for me, the rugby sense just isn't there, respectfully.
It's crazy. It's when he arrived, right? Like you talk about the crossfield kick. That's what I was going to go on. That was the weapon, right? Vunivalu's in the team. Look out, they're going to cross kick. And it doesn't matter what you do. Like the guy was so tall, he was so good under the high ball, he was so good at catching. It's like you put 3 guys out there, the likelihood he's still going to catch it. But when you see him play now, even for the Reds, it's like they're even putting that in the back pocket. So they're not even utilizing that, whether they've lost the faith in him converting it or they consider it too risky. He's just kind of out there as a bit of a passenger, right? Because he can't. He's not elusive enough to do things by himself. Like he's not X factor enough, I don't think, in rugby, or lacks the confidence to back himself to do things in rugby. That he just kind of he searches. He doesn't do too much. He likes to stay on his wing, but when he does come in field, he doesn't add. Like what a Sevu Reece would do, right? To me, that's the sort of impact he should have. Like he should come in, he's bigger, he should be as agile and as blockbuster, and his pace should do that sort of impact. But I just don't see it from him. And to the fact that I've seen the Reds back pocket that crossfield kick when he's on the field makes me think that he's just not in the game plan anymore. It's and massive waste of money. Massive waste of money.
Yeah, aside from that, look, we had the your normal some wonderful tries from the Drua, but and yet the Reds had more clean breaks than the Drua in this game. 16 turnovers and 17 turnovers, 13 penalties to 11 penalties. This was a 12 lineouts, 21 lineouts, plus a bunch of scrums as well. This was there was a lot of stoppages in this game, in between those moments of brilliance. I don't know if the heat was something the Queensland Reds were trying to kind of minimise that impact by slowing the game by having those stoppages. But the Reds, Canberra's look, it's not Canberra. Sorry, gone blank. Not the other place up north. Gives it a D. Anyway, wherever the Reds play, but they up there, up Darwin. Thank you. It's hot up there as well. So you'd think that they would be, of all the teams in Super Rugby that are not Fijian, they probably have the closest the closest climate to Fiji. So you'd think they would be the best place to take them on. But this was one where, and this hence the title of the show. What do the bookies know? The bookies had the Reds as favourites in this game. I couldn't believe it. I should have put more money on the. I just did my normal $2 multi, but the Fijian and Drua were $2.10 in this game. That's definitely worth a tenner or two, because they're fantastic at home, and I just didn't understand it, the odds. But it's like not the clinical game that the Drua would probably want. Stack how they performed in this game up against how they performed against the Brumbies in Canberra. They played much better in that game than this game, and yet they come away with a loss. This time they get the win. The points don't always tell you how well the team has played. I guess is my point.
I would have thought that the Perth would have been a bit more suited heat-wise than Queensland would have been, but I've never been there. So anyway, regardless, I thought either way. But you know what? The big difference is for me, home. They're home. And like you said, how do they not know that? Like, we've done that most of the season now. The draw are at home. If they're playing a team in similar or lower position, they're good enough to get wins. And it's just that confidence that they get from their home crowd, their home field, and it's out of the other team's comfort zone. It's not a fully pro, Suncorp Stadium. It's not Eden Park. It's not these fully fleshed out stadiums. It's a little bit more homely. And these pro players, like, how much are they used to that sort of stuff? It just puts them out straight away. And I just think before they even roll out, teams are second guessing themselves in that environment as opposed to what they're used to. So, hey, I love it. I mean, to write off Fiji at home or to write off the draw at home, what are you thinking? Like, we talked about this last week, with the odds and the tipping. It's crazy. And then to get a player attacking threat sent off like that, two stupid things. I mean, send it back. Can we get Australia just rip that contract up? Say, here's $100,000. Piss off. Go away. Look, what's really ironic is they have all these stacks of wingers now. All these young guns that are like ripping the world to pieces. And here we got this guy. What's he on? Like $1 million or something? Whatever it was that they get him to come over from league. And then you got these other guys here that are on, probably contracts of $10,000 a season or something that are just tearing the competition apart. That's the future of Australian rugby for me, those sort of guys. But yeah, draw at home, they're hard to beat. And unless you're a top 2-3 side in this competition, you're not getting that job done. So well played. Put the house on it next time they're at home. I told you last week.
Not sure much more to say about that one, really.
Confirmed top 8?
Oh, yeah. Well, they're not definitely top 8. I think mathematically they can still drop down because they're only 3 points ahead of the Western Force. But then again, the Western Force got to play away. So therefore, will the Western Force get the points they need? Probably. Unlikely. The Crusaders 6 points behind, so still technically the Crusaders with 2 rounds to go can get 10 points and make it into
That's the problem. That's the problem with this competition. The Crusaders should not be a chance. It should be done, right? And to go through a season this terrible and then still be 2 games to go, we can still make the playoffs. No. I'm sorry, they shouldn't be.
They would have to win both their games. They would have to set their butts up for that to happen. The one thing about the Crusaders here is that the Crusaders are equal top on the number of bonus points scored in this competition, with 7 bonus points. The other 2 teams are the Reds and the Hurricanes, which gives you a weird combination of the of teams there. The Hurricanes been blasting it out the park. The Reds kind of decent up and down season, and the Crusaders awful season are the 3 with the most bonus points, which is kind of nuts. Which is why they're above the Moana Pacific at the moment, and yet they've won less games. Moana's won more games than the Crusaders, but sit below them because of their lack of bonus points. That's why that's why they're still in the hunt. Is that they haven't lost games by big amounts. They've lost 10 games. They've only won 2, but they're minus 41 on points difference. The Moana Pacific at minus 200, which gives you a difference, the kind of situation there. But anyway, let's go on to then the Brumbies versus Crusaders. In this one, all of us had the Brumbies here as strong favourites in coming into this one, and in the first half, they showed that going out to a 17-7 lead. Now, the Crusaders, for pretty much, I think the first time this season, actually had a kind of recognised a fly half, a recognised 10, with Fergus Burke coming back for this game. Mr. Harris, you're shaking your head there at that comment. You don't think Fergus Burke recognised?
Oh no, I think he's a good. I think he's a very good first five. But I think the biggest problem for the Crusaders all season is just been their lack of cohesion. How many times have you seen passes go to ground? You know, even some sides that are struggling will basically still find a connection, and their misconnection in attack and defence has been exposed big time. Listen, you can't fault the effort of these guys. You can see the effort that's going in, but the disconnect, because they've moved so many pieces in their backline throughout the season. I personally think, now whether that came from Scott Robertson with Havili going into first five, I personally think it was a really big mistake. I think you had to go into these last few games with some guys that have played together. If it meant leaving a Reihana at first five, then so be it. You know, you could change it up with 20 minutes to go if it's not working, and that seems to me that's the connection they're not finding. And unfortunately, when you haven't got that cohesion in attack or defence, all the little things go wrong. The decisions go against you. The bounce of the bounce of the ball. Look at the, you know, you think back a week ago where the pass goes off the head of the Highlanders centre. You know, 9 times out of 10, the opposition player normally knocks that on, or it finds hand. So it's just that cohesion and timing is what they're looking at. I'm a bit bummed out because I thought with about even a month ago I'd go and unload on them as to still make the final and possibly win it, so I can say goodbye to that bit of cash. That'll serve me right. Yeah. To me, I just think they look like dead men walking at the moment, and they possibly could get put out of their misery this weekend.
Jeez, I want to see the odds for that, Paul. I want to see the odds. What are the odds the Crusaders are going to make the finals from now? Is that a possible TAB pick? While I rabble on about this, because I'm going to reiterate what Steve's already said.
Comment there that Severu's try scoring rate is still ridiculous, though. Yes, he's got 12 tries. The next person in the try scoring is Hosking Satutu with 9. So he's 3 clear. So amongst a bad team, he is by far the best player that they have.
Oh, jeez. He's the only shining light to come out of that red and black team this season. And it's unbelievable. It just goes to show that a good player doesn't need a good team to look good. You know, like a lot of good players you could fit into that team and they would, you know, fall with the team. And there's a lot of good players in that team right now that aren't looking like good players. And that is really showing just how good those guys really are. And it shows just how good Stevie Reese really, really is as a player. But no, I agree with what Stephen was saying before, because I've written down in my notes that the Brumbies in that opening stanza of the game were just so much more organised. They got that yellow card early. It was quite a bad tackle, actually, a swinging arm high shot. I thought they were lucky that there wasn't worse. But they just looked a little more clinical. And that third try they scored, that was insane. Just to get a quick turnover, Lolosio make a half break, put in a really nothing grubber, and then to get it just fortuitously picked up and support to always be there. They just always seem to run as a team, that Brumby side, and they did that incredibly in that first half. But hey, they still fell asleep, right? That second half, they fell apart in 10 points. I think they would have gone into halftime not happy with how many points they'd scored, considering how much they had controlled that first 40 minutes. So yeah, the Crusaders certainly come back, and I guess in the end, that's a whole different topic for a whole nother part, isn't it, right at the end there. But yeah, credit to the Crusaders come back, though, because they looked really dead and buried and out of it. They looked completely not in the ballpark at all in that first half. But yeah, they had a good second half, a good kick to tie it up as well. I thought, you know, to have that sort of range in your arsenal is a very, very good skill to have. But that finish, though, Sonny Bill Williams, learn the rules. That's all I have to say.
Oh, I didn't hear his commentary, but the Brumbies didn't play great in this game. Their scrum was a disaster in this one. I mean, they lost 5 out of their 11 scrums, which is awful. I mean, for a Brumbies team that we've historically said, hey, set piece, this is not a set piece team anymore. This team has evolved massively from that. So any commentators who are giving you that bullshit, that means they're basically not bothering to to sort of watch the games anymore. They're just running on cliches. They also lost 4 of their lineouts, 4 of their 13 lineouts. That was not good. Gave up more penalties at 13-7. But the Crusaders, they just turned the ball over, right? 16 times they just gave up the ball. So those two things balanced out, which is why we had such a close game at the end there. Because I say the Brumbies were not great in this game. But boy, oh boy, as you say, that finish. And I loved how the referee put it. He says, "You're not allowed to do that in rugby union."
Yeah.
Right? Because in rugby league, you're allowed to. And Sonny Bill Williams, has he got a history in rugby league?
Exactly.
But that is a massive call for the ref to make, right? Time's up. Someone has slapped it out, and you are going to give a penalty try to win the game. He could easily have said, it's a penalty because I couldn't guarantee that the Brumbies player would catch it and put it down. But because the Brumbies player was the closest person, in fact, the only person who was likely to touch the ball, on that one, he actually had the backbone to give it, and so good on the ref for doing that, because that was an easy one to bottle and go. Because people say, the referee should put his whistle in the pocket, that the players decide it. Nah.
Do you reckon it should go one or the other though? Like, do you reckon? What do you think about getting a card and a penalty try? Would have you preferred? Do you think it's fair that they get double punished for that? I kind of feel like it should be okay. It's a penalty try, but not a card, or it's a card and you give them a 5 meter scrum or something, or a 5 meter penalty, right? I just don't like the double whammies like that.
But the referee followed the law, didn't he? But no matter, but whether the law's right or not, he did what he was supposed to do.
Fair.
I'm with Steve on this one, but I do have a question for both of you. They took the penalty shot to level the score. Now, I would suggest the Crusaders team of old would have basically backed themselves, kicked it down into the 22, because they were still, all that basically did was level the score at the time, and you still had to win that game. I find it odd that they thought, we'll kick the game, try and kick the goal, try and get back up there to win the game. I just found that an odd decision, guys.
Wouldn't have it won it? It was 24-24 when they took that penalty. They won by 7.
Yeah. But that would take it to golden point. That penalty took it to golden point for the Crusaders. The Crusaders kicked penalty.
Sorry. I thought you meant for the Brumbies to take that kick at the end to win it. No, for the Crusaders, yeah.
Yeah.
What time was that? What was that, 75th minute? I guess they gave themselves enough confidence that they could get back in there in 5 minutes and get themselves another penalty, right? But that was a long-range kick too, wasn't it? It was a halfway, wasn't it? It was a pretty massive kick.
Yeah, like my theory is, like, you kick it down the tram line, and even if you lose the line out, you've still got them hemmed inside the red zone with 4 minutes to go. But I'd like to think they would they'd back their own systems. But once again, this says to me where this particular side is at the moment, and especially in and around with the greatest respect to Cody Taylor, boy, that leadership, and that leadership, you wouldn't think that a couple of players make a real big difference, but boy, Sam Whitelock and Richie Mo'unga are a massive difference, and that's why they're probably arguably two of the greatest ever Super Rugby players around. Probably definitely got the best records ever.
Well, yeah, but also you're missing Scott Barrett in this one. He's been massively different. When he's been around, they've been massively different as well. Not just leadership, but also line out efficiency from him. But yeah, no, I get exactly where you're coming from. The Crusaders needed to win this game for their season. So, and yet they took the draw option rather than go for that win. They're also missing Will Jordan as well. We've not seen the impact of him because they knew they were missing him for the entire season. Whereas with Scott Barrett, we've seen the impact he has when he's there, and it's massive on that sort of things. So hence why I mentioned him in particular. So yeah, you're quite right, Stephen. I get where you're coming from. That this was a must-win game. This wasn't a let's come away with losing bonus point and keep it close So interesting. The mental space that the team's in this one. Fihaki is starting to find his feet in Super Rugby. Absolutely. He's a player early on. That and interesting that they put McNichol at fullback rather than Fihaki, and because McNichol's also played on the wing as well. Because Fihaki's played most of his early rugby at the early season at fullback. So a bit of interesting how they juggled those two there as well with that one. Well done to the Brumbies to pulling out the win when they're not playing well, which you talk about so good because this wasn't a good performance from them. With particularly with their set piece not functioning there.
And it's another team too that hasn't beaten the Crusaders for X amount of years, right? So there's a lot of that mental sort of holding back of, can we actually do it? They're playing like crap this season. They're not going that well, but it's still that ability to blast through that and actually do enough, to beat a team that you've not beaten for years and years and years and years. So I think McNichol's been a good boost for this Crusader side. I think he's actually added a lot. Experience and just ability wise, it certainly helped out. I think those younger guys in that back line a lot. Is he next tier? No, but I certainly think he's the sort of guy that I think's helped the Crusaders out.
Boy, how much would they give to have a Luke Romano type character in the forward pack? Somebody who's just going to carry hard into contact. You kind of look at like Quinton Strange. Yes, he's an All Black, but he's never struck me as a lock forward that bends the line, especially like Scott Barrett. The young boy Hannah's got a lot of potential, but once again, he probably just needs a little bit more size. But who's that lock that's gonna take control of that area? And I also think they probably have really lacked a real go forward. Two real go forward guys in the pack. I think. Listen, Callum Grace is a good footballer, but he's no Michaeli too, is he? That sort of frame that'll get your nose going forward. So for me, their back line has always been playing behind the advantage line. Listen, I'm not going to kick them. I'm not going to kick them while they're down. It's just one of those years. It's a perfect storm for them. Anybody laughing. I can think back to the Blues. Couldn't remember that. It was only a few seasons ago. The Blues couldn't buy a win, for crying out loud. They struggled to beat New Zealand sides, and man, that's just the way it is sometimes.
Oh look, injuries haven't helped them. It's also when you have a transition year and injuries at the same time, you really get hit. And so I do feel for Penny a lot in this one. Look. New Zealand franchises, it's very rarely you one and done. And the closest we've come to that is probably Gatland recently, where he started off really well with the Chiefs. Everyone forgets that. And then we had the COVID and the break, and then we came back, and he spent all his time trying to figure out, is the Lions going to happen in South Africa? And his entire changing room were like, hang on, you're still our coach. Why are you not paying any attention to us? And he lost the changing room because of that. And that's something that people don't talk about, the fact that he really did lose that changing room when when his focus changed to the Lions. Clayton came in, did a really good job, and the Chiefs organisation did the right thing, and because they could easily have gone, you know what, this Gatling guy's a legend, we'll take him back, but no, they went no, we're onto a good thing here.
That's what players have done.
Well, look, I'm not sure that's Gat's problem. I think that's just, as I said at the beginning of the show, when you go onto the BBC Sport Radio, on the BBC Radio BBC Rugby website, and see that Wales is talking about cutting another team again. You're like, geez, same shit, different day. Wales is just a mess at the moment, to be honest.
When you hand in your resignation for a job and they throw it back at you and say, no, we think you're doing all right, after pretty much losing everything you could possibly play, you start to question, what's really going on there. But hey, lastly about the Crusaders, right? This is a team that's not far off. I would not want to kick this team at all, because they are going to be kicking us all in the ass, in another year or two, pretty quickly, I'd say. Like, the amount of players they've got, they just need that a bit more of that leadership back. Like, a Scott Barrett back in this lineup for this game against the Brumbies, I think they could have won that game. We saw in the 2 games that he played earlier this year just how much of a difference he does, not only for his impact, but like everyone around him, right? He just lifts everyone with him, which is when I think, everyone hates talking about the All Blacks when it's Super Rugby season, but you talk about who's going to captain this All Blacks team. Well, you've got a leader who lifts everyone, or a leader that takes everyone with him. That's what you've got, I think, with Savia and with Whitelock. Savia's a guy who leads from the front, and he's like, I'll do it, follow me. Whereas Whitelock's a guy like, let's go, team, let's move. And to me, I want a Whitelock player who's going to say, team, let's go. Savia's a great leader, don't get me wrong, but he's a leader that will say, I'll do it, give me the ball, and I will take this on my shoulders, just, come with me. Whereas I want him to drag my whole team, drag us up all through.
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I don't think they're a bad team. If you think back to even the top of the season with all the injuries, they actually beat the Chiefs. They should have actually beaten them twice, to be honest. They should have beaten the Hurricanes as well. They only let the game slip in the last couple of minutes. You get those results falling your way, and your season pitches look a heck of a lot different. Listen, I refuse to put the boot into a team that's won 7 titles in a row, 14 in a row. They have actually been the benchmark team. If you kind of look, just let's not forget their under 20s took out their respective super title. There's a lot of good kids. They will bounce back. I feel for Rob. I feel for Rob Penny, but man alive, everybody's going to point to what happened at the Waratahs and what's happening at the moment. For me, the real interesting come the end of the season, whether they make the playoffs or not, will be where his future lies is the real interesting one for me.
Yeah,
it'll be great. I will take the moment to say it's great to have the best franchise in the South Island be the Highlanders for a change.
Look, you know the Crusaders are not going to be down for very long, so you do need to enjoy it for a short while. You need to enjoy it a little bit, definitely. Moving on then, on the Waratahs one, look where Waratahs are now without Penny, and you understand actually that it wasn't him, it was the franchise there. So let's. But anyway, next up, Blues versus the Highlanders. Now, for a team that Cornflake has been saying all season can't score in the first 60 minutes, this team held on well for the first half, and then the Blues power game and greater depth showed. Look, we know the Blues play a power forward game that wears you out. So this is kind of a very typical Blues win here, where 21-13, the Highlanders still in it at half time, but then 47-13 is how it finishes as they had 26 points to 0 in the second half for the Blues. Good performance by the Blues, and I say following on from this is a typical Blues performance, perhaps not a typical Highlanders performance, Steve.
Yeah, listen, I think the Highlanders really started well. I think the Highlanders really started well. I think what they needed to do though is sort of put points on the Blues, create a little bit of scoreboard pressure, and you look to the 21st minute, they were actually leading 14-13, and going into halftime, 21-13, they were right in the contest, but the Blues came out in that second half and just kept it tight. And credit to the Blues forward. It just seems as though everybody understands their game plan, and their game plan is we're going to bash you. We're just going to carry, clean, carry, and somewhere along the line you're going to give penalties, and the penalties started coming, and all of a sudden you start giving this big Blues pack momentum. I was actually impressed because they had rested a few from what was a very tough contest against the Hurricanes the week before. I'm saying that I still think there's some real pluses for the Highlanders. This boy Cam Miller's getting, for me, is getting better and better, and just with a little bit of game time, and hopefully moving forward, he can get a partnership going with Fakatava. You got to remember these are young guys, And I do have time for this boy, Fabian Holland. I don't think he quite qualifies for the All Blacks this year. I think it might be next year that he qualifies. But I would hope that he's a kid in the mix. And boy, Ethan de Groot, man, doesn't he give everything? He gives everything, eh?
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this to Cornflakes. I know I can throw it to him. Have enough time to run to the toilet and come back again, because I know he's got something you want to say about the Highlanders.
It's toilet break time. He's going to run off to the toilet. I mean, look, you've nailed it. Really, you've really nailed everything I was going to say about them. They started off really well. Well, I mean, we'll talk about a start first, right? They started off well for a change, which was very un-Highlanders-like. Got early points, good really first up try. Looked actually in the game, looked like they had a bit of continuity about themselves. But that second half, and it's something that typically the Highlanders have suffered in the first half with, but now they're starting to suffer in the second half. It's like they can't string together a full 80-minute display. It's not within their own try line and the opposition half. It's when they get into that attacking half, into that 22, they just can't penetrate defenses. And sure, the Blues, we know, are a really, really good defensive team, especially on their own line. We've seen that in the last week against the Hurricanes, wasn't it? When they just absolutely they were so desperate to defend their own line. And the Hurricanes are a lot more classy attack than the Highlanders have. But look, they attacked, they hammered away. Sure, they didn't have as much ball as they probably would have liked. The Blues held that pretty well. But I think as the game wore on, they wore down. And I think that was... overall, I think that was a real problem for the Highlanders. But I do agree with you. Great young halves. Like Cam Miller, I think, has really stepped up. I mean, Reece who? I mean, Wales, have him back. We don't need him anymore. He's done his job. You can have him back. We got Cam running the show now, which is really good. But yeah, the Packs, we're playing 40 minutes, okay? We just need to play a little bit more. Keep on moving. I've gone priority slot now. Oh,
yeah.
I've been dumped. But they just need to do that 40 minutes and build that to 50, 60, and keep that intensity. The Blues are really good. I think they nail 80 minutes of forward intensity, and it's like we've kind of seen from Crusaders teams and in the past, where they won't try and smoke you with points off the park in the first half. They'll just grind you in the first half with dominance at set piece and in the forwards. And then in the second half, when you start to wear down, that's when they pile on, right? That halftime break into the second half. But yeah, I mean, from a Highlanders perspective, I thought this could either be close or a thrashing. I feel I was kind of right on both fronts, because it was pretty close for the most part until they completely fell apart, and the Blues obviously showed their class at the end there. But I think the Highlanders can be pretty happy with that first half performance throughout.
The other thing is we're really blessed. You mentioned Seven Reece before. We got some wingers that are just in hot ticket form at the moment. And in the past, I've been quite critical of Caleb Clark, but boy, it's just good to see. Boy, I don't mind eating a bit of humble pie over that one. All of a sudden, he's looking for extra work. I mean, to say, geez, so good at kickoff. He attacks that kickoff. So the locks on the receive, you've got to get that right, because he'll just sniff those opportunities out, going closer. So, and he's big enough. He's almost like an extra loose forward. So, listen, credit to him, boy. That's going to be some tough decisions for Razor when it comes to picking all these wingers.
Toto and Arway as well in this game. Lovely. Really enjoyed his try as well. And there's definitely a lot of ups. There's a lot more upsides to Toto and Arway than I think there is to a lot of these players. I think Stephen Harris. You'll remember that we sort of saw him. Then he went off to play an NPC game against Hawke's Bay, and he comes into that game as a kind of, I'll say, atypical Fijian winger. Very strong runner, very good with ball in hand. Goes into a wet game against Hawke's Bay and looks imperious under the high ball. And you're like, whoa, this is not what we expect from these kind of guys. And then we hear afterwards that he's basically spent the previous week working on taking the high ball. You're like, wow, okay, here's a guy that's not just he's an intelligent rugby player who really understands he's working at his game, and he's not just a a guy who's got physical attributes, but he's a guy who's got a sensible head screwed on as well. I'm really impressed by his rugby nous from that point of view. And Moana Pacifica, they loved him also as being called him Jimmy Jet, and was very good for the culture and for and keeping everyone happy as part of that crowd as well. So clearly he's a good. It comes across that he's a good squad member as well as player. Now clearly, in a new place down there in at the Highlanders, I think it's taken him a while to find his feet, which is absolutely fine. And because some players are like that. Some players they slot straight in. Some players take time to find their feet. So what I would say is, if he does make the All Blacks, don't judge him on his first game. Give him time to find his feet. Because I think he's that kind of player, or that kind of person who might take some time to find to get comfortable in an environment first and learn what's going on. But when he does, I think he's really got the proper nous to. Because that try at the weekend was one that was a discipline and training ground move. He has worked at that move and the timing and everything there. That isn't something that's just that's not an instinct kind of thing. That's that's a hard work try where he's worked with the forwards, not even worked with the people who he's normally working with. He's gone and spent time at line out time. He's taken extra time away from the back from his backs work to do some forwards work and work with. So to me, that shows a good work attitude and a good rugby brain on him for that one. Western Force versus the Waratahs. Now again, this is back to the show title. What do the bookies know? The Force were $2.05 in this game. The Waratahs were the favourites. The Waratahs have won 2 games all season against the Crusaders, who we've said are shit. Because I am going to put the boot in while I can. Whereas Western Force, they have a home record where they've beaten the Crusaders, they've beaten the Drua, they've beaten the Reds. Sure, they've been beaten by the Hurricanes and a bit more questionably by Moana Pacifica on this one. But yeah, I just couldn't understand how the Force weren't favourites coming into this one. Again, another one I should have put a bit more money on. First half, they blow out or initially, to be fair, one of your favourite players, Mr. Cornflake, Marky Mark, scoring his first try of the season. A player
That's sad.
Pardon?
That's sad. That's very sad. He's already gone to NRL. He's already gone. Mentally, he's gone.
A player that you've liked. So they get the early try, they get up, but boy, Kunzel after this was the Donaldson show, right? Took it to the line, gave it to Beale, who just showed quick hands to Kunzel, who scores. Donaldson knocks over a penalty, scores a try himself, knocks over the conversion, scores another penalty. And all the points are from Donaldson. Sure, Princep's try was off the back of a strong scrum. He didn't have much to do with that one. But otherwise, this was the Donaldson show. And I think showing, and also perhaps White, who put in a strong tackle against number 8. This is why the Force have gone out and bought White and Donaldson and that experience to give them these kind of games.
I was about to say, we spoke about combinations, teams finding combinations. You can see these two are actually starting to find their range. What he scores 17 points, including a try. And I'm watching Donaldson, and his game management in recent times has been really, really good. But it also helps when you've got a very experienced head in that number 9 jersey. A player that I've been watching, and I wonder if he might be an outside chance for the Wallabies, is Bailey Kunzel, the centre. He's picked up a couple of tries, and he's looked really, really tidy for mine. And just finally, is Red Princep was a player who obviously ran around for the Hurricanes for a few years, and you kind of wondered if maybe NPC was more his ceiling. But boy, he's playing some really good rugby over in the Force, I got to say.
Another player who's taken time though to fit in there, right? Initially, he didn't. Whereas, and then over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, has fit in there.
What's crazy about Ben Donaldson though? When did he learn to run so fast? I mean, he was never that sort of impactful guy. Like, sure, he was like, took him as a fullback to the World Cup. He didn't really do much. And now all of a sudden he's breaking lines, beating defenders on the outside, what we saw last week. It's just like, hang on. Where's the real Ben Donaldson gone? Because I don't know where he is. But because we talked about this weeks ago, right? All the fly halves, your Lolosios, your Gordons, your Edmeds, your Harrisons. And I was like, I think Donaldson, I'll put him outside that bracket of that core group. And now after the last 2 weeks, it's kind of like, hang on a minute. This guy is he's in the core group. And it's like, okay, how do we fit him into this mix now? He's really turned the corner, which is amazing for him, for his career. Just fantastic. And like we talked about last week, Paul, is this the Kurtley Beale effect? Because his game has stepped up massively since Kurtley Beale joined the Western Force. So is it that confidence of having a backup guy behind him that he can maybe say, okay, if I stuff something up, if you got my 6, makes a bit of a difference for him. But in this game specifically, I thought what really put the Western Force above the Waratahs was their back row and how well they worked off the short plays. So much interchange between them of short passes and being able to hit tackles and offload. And so many guys were hitting lines and making that initial bust, but still keeping the ball alive and allowing them to flow straight through. Really, really put them in a good territorial position, gave the defense all sorts of trouble. And I thought they started off really, really well. And I think their scrum worked really well too. I think Medrano had his best game, the Argentinian. And there was a couple of Argentinians in here. The Waratahs actually had one as well, stolen from our boys over at Glasgow. So, yeah, we had a couple of Argentinians both playing at Pride. We had Medrano and Proto, who was playing for Glasgow. He's on loan to the Waratahs. So there you go. If you didn't know, you do now.
And the Force had 16 scrums, which shows you that the Waratahs knocked on a little bit. The Waratahs 18 turnovers, that they weren't their own best friends. I guess the only kind of worry for the Force is they only scored 1 try in that second half. They had they controlled the game. They played in the right areas of the pitch, but they couldn't get points on the board in that second half, which I think was a bit of a problem for them there. But hey, you're already 27 up, 20-7 up. So you've got yourself a 3-score lead. It's not that worrying, but this is one of the ones that maybe your Hurricanes, your Blues. This goes from 20-7 to 50-7 by the end of the game, and that's kind of where the Force didn't kick on like a top-notch team would do. But then again, look, they're on the edge of the finals, so they should be. I think they'd be happy with that with that result. Really, a question in the live chat there: will they make the finals, the playoffs? Look, they need 2 wins. One of those games is away to the Reds, and one of those games is at home to the Brumbies. So I think it's really hard to see the Force getting those 2 wins out of those 2 games, to be honest. So no, I think the top 8 is the top 8. We'll see, because the Andrua just need 1 win really, and they got the Rebels at home, and that should be enough to see them home and into the finals for the first time. He says with no confidence. I need to go back and check on that. So they've made the finals before, but yeah. So cracking. So no, I'm sorry, I can't see the Force quite making it.
Hey, I said, Mighty, that Nwangani should be dumped at the start of the season when he signed for NRL. I said, if I'm the Waratahs, drop him, bench him. I prefer to develop a player than choose a guy that doesn't want to be part of my team or competition, even though he's contracted. Hey, that's not my problem. I didn't give him the rest of the season, and he signs next year. I'm a coach. I want players who are dedicated to my team this year, next year, the team the year after. Hey, sit on the bench. He's versatile. He can play fullback, wing. If you want the minutes, you can get them off the pine.
Yeah.
I'm going to start the guys I want for my future.
He almost looks like a player when he feels the ball. It almost looks, what's on for Mark, as opposed to reading the situation. And his go-to thing, and you could almost predict what he's going to do. He'll try and use his pace to get on the outside and then flick the ball out the outside. But it's a real shame because he's actually a heck of a talent. But I tend to agree with Steve. He just does not look like he wants to be there.
I think he's bulked up too much. I really think he's bulked up too much for an outside back in rugby. He is kind of too big. Like, sure, it helps his strength and that, but I think he's lost a bit of his agileness and his kind of ability to change directions quickly and do it. It's become more of a power winger, which I don't think suits his skill set. When he's more of a speed, pace, agility sort of guy who's going to chip you, do something a little bit Fijian sort of, right? Not really the league sort of winger that he's obviously aiming to become.
Agileness, agility, jeez.
Agileness.
Anyway, agileness. Let's move on then to the next round, and our picks for the penultimate round of the season. Stephen Harris is a 2-hour show. Now we're trying to be a 1-hour show, but we just don't put limits on ourselves on these. If you want to drop out, if you've got things to do, that I totally understand. But we are trying to slowly wrap things up, not quickly, just slowly. First of all, then, Chiefs versus the Hurricanes. Oh my God, this is a hard one to pick. I'm actually going to go Hurricanes away from home. I would normally go Chiefs, but after their performance last weekend, when they couldn't get over the Rebels away, I think the Hurricanes are a really good shout here.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm actually going to go for the Chiefs. I think they'll actually get a bit of a kick up the backside from Clayton McMillan after their performance last week, and I think this is a performance that they need to earmark themselves as a contender because they're looking more like pretenders at the minute. So I'm going to go for the Chiefs. Hopefully my nephew's not watching the show. So there you go. I'll go for the Chiefs.
How well do my comments age in a week, man? Man, I feel finally I feel justified for the outrageous comments I've made for once. Predictably, Hurricanes all the way.
The next up, Brumbies versus Rebels. I think this is clearly a Brumbies game. This one actually has got a margin on it. I'm going to put it out to actually 15, I think, because I think that not 100, 15. Geez, the Brumbies don't win by many, and the Rebels aren't, as we saw last weekend, can keep scores down, but they are away this weekend. So yes, I'm very comfortable that the Brumbies will win, but I don't think it'll be a massive margin.
Yep, Brumbies easy.
Mr. Harris.
Yep. No, sorry. Yeah, agree. Brumbies.
This next one though, Moana Pacifica versus the Waratahs. You've got to hope that Moana Pacifica get this because the Waratahs have only lost 2 games all season. But is it one of those ones where Moana doesn't cope well with being favourites? I don't know. Are they set up to keep games close rather than to win them? But still, I'm going to go with Moana. I feel at least this is one opportunity to do so.
You don't give too many chances to back Moana Pacific to win, do you? hey, imagine if they were playing in Tonga. Oh, wouldn't that be brilliant? Will that crowd get behind them for their first, not their first win, but for a win, first win at home? I'm going Moana as well. I found this one a bit difficult, but I just hate the fact they're playing at Mount Smart. It's like it's kind of like both teams are away. It's just not it for me. But I still want Moana to win. That's probably a heart more than a head. But then I can laugh at my team next week as well because the Waratahs will lose again.
Well, there's a wooden spoon waiting for one of these teams, isn't there, guys?
Indeed.
Yep.
On Saturday, unfortunately, and I'm gonna go with Moana. I think they'll take a lot of bit of confidence from their last effort, and I don't know how much confidence there's left in this Waratahs team. I think they'll probably know that they're dead men walking for the season as well.
Yeah, but look, so far this round, the Chiefs were $1.60, the Hurricanes $2.25 in the opening one, which I think is putting I guess that's bigger favourites than I think they really are for the Chiefs. Brumbies $1.17. Yeah, Rebels $4.60. I get that. This game though, again, I think the TAB got it right. $1.85 for Pacifica, $1.87 for Waratahs. Yeah, it's a coin flip. How are they going to turn up? We don't know. Let's be honest. Crusaders Blues. The Blues surely $1.30. They're not, and the Crusaders are $3.20. Finally, the TAB has actually figured out what's happening this year, rather than going on the past 10 years. Blues, I think, have got to go in this one as favourites, and I think Stephen was talking earlier about proving you're a finals team. This is the kind of game where I think that Vern Cotter will use it to talk to the boys and say, look, this is a finals game now. Let's show me how you're going to turn up at the finals for this game. So I think that's what they'll use here. The only because they did, as Stephen said, they did rotate a few players last time. Maybe they'll rotate a few players here because they've got the Chiefs up next weekend before they run into the finals. So it's a last chance to rest players. But even so, I still think the Blues will go down there and do the business.
Yeah, I'll go along with you, Paul. You've got to go for the Blues. I think there's a lot of confidence that's been sucked out of this Crusaders team. If they do the unthinkable and make the 8, oh boy, watch out. But no, I think they could be put out of their misery this weekend.
Yeah, Blues as well. This one, it's just a matter of how ruthless they are.
Wow, so this is one that they should have had the margin on, rather than the Brumbies game. Reds against the Force. Look, the Force, they're at home and they're decent. Away from home, they haven't won yet all season. Sure, the Reds have been inconsistent, but look, the Force don't travel well. This is a Reds win all day.
And these last two games are almost a case of the Force and the Drua don't win on the road, and they do win at home. So that kind of picks it for me. Yeah,
but the Highlanders don't win at home either. I'm wondering. So sorry. Before we get on to the last one, right, Stephen, are you also with the Reds?
Yeah, I'm with the Reds.
Okay, last one then. I have this tempting thing about the Drua.
Little faith.
But you're right. They've not won away. It's cold down there. You just told me it's -6. Yeah. Okay. Just purely on temperature. Okay. It's under the roof, but it's still bloody cold. It's just not fair asking the Fijian boys to play in that cold weather. So hence, but after seeing what the Drua did against the Brumbies in cold Canberra, I don't think this is 83-17. I think it's a lot closer than that. Because this is one of the most agonizing picks this round for me.
The only thing for me that the Drua need to decide on is how many blankets they want to pack in their suitcase. That's it. Don't worry about the rugby. Just run around to keep warm. Let the Highlanders deal with that. And enjoy the southern hospitality of Dunedin. And just keep warm.
I'm sorry, but it's all right. Harmon will be back. Highlanders will be looking for a 20-point win. Jeez,
Nocturnal.
That is a lot more confidence than I have in the team. I'll tell you that straight up. Stephen Harris.
No, let's not go with the Crusaders. I think they'll probably take stock out of what happened last week, and there's just so much to play for. You just sense the teams that are sitting just behind the Chiefs are all maybe thinking about where they don't want to go if they make the top 8. So, listen. At the end of the day, I want to see the Landers get in there. They had a tough start to the season, but man, they're showing a bit of fight, and be good to see them make it. No offense to the Drua.
I think the Highlanders have learned a lot this season, right? With their squad and their players. Like, the young players have actually developed, which I think has made a big difference. Like, typically they switch players around, they lose guys, old guys come in and they perform, they don't perform. This season we've got young guys or guys that are around for a while that are actually progressing, right? And we're actually going like, hey, this guy is a future Cam Miller, number 10, right? We're picking him over a Welsh international. Sorry, Wales. But, we're finding players who are going to be here for 2, 3, 4 years, right, to build a team around. So I think that's That's a positive. Results, maybe not so. But hey, it's like my boys, the Pacers. Make the playoffs. That's all you need to do. Then hello, you've won the first round. Then hello, you won the conference semi-finals. And hello, you never know. You get those finals. It's one off.
So I'm going for that. So those are my picks. You can see on you've heard of the others. For my multi though, I am dropping the Chiefs Hurricanes game, the Highlanders Fijian and Drua game. I just don't feel confident enough on those two. So hence I'm just going for a 4-leg multi this weekend with the old $2 bet. Sorry,
keeping Moana in there.
I'm keeping Moana in there. I'm going Brumbies to beat the Rebels, Moana to beat the Waratahs, Blues to beat the Crusaders, and Reds to beat the Force. But I'm just I feel more confident about Moana than I do over Highlanders Drua, which sounds crazy.
Ouch!
But there you go.
Dang it! Oh.
Anyway, it's fantastic to have Stephen Harris back on the show this evening. Thank you to be back. Great to have Cornflake as always. We'll be back next Monday at 8 p.m. Talking. Oh, sorry. I've gone. Stephen, go on.
Just before you go, I just want a big shout out to. I went up to Wellsford the weekend and to watch a gentleman by the name of Stu Oldfield, who was playing his 300 Premier Rugby match for Wellsford.
Wow.
300. Gee, that's a lot of training nights. Crazy. And the crazy thing about it, I think apart from probably lock, he'd probably played most positions in a Premier Rugby team, which brings new meaning to the word versatile, I should say. And he was running around at hooker on the weekend. And the last time I saw Wellsford win a title, he was running around at number 8. He's not the tallest fellow around. If you jump on the NZ Sport Radio Facebook site, you'll see an interview that I did with Stu at the end of the game. And I got to say, what a champion! There's something about going out to a rural place to watch a game of footy, and you're down the end of the ground, and you're standing there watching a game, and a guy comes up behind you with an esky and says, "Hey mate, would you like a beer?" Just absolutely priceless. Was a wonderful day. Thanks to the Wellsford Rugby Club also for having me. So yeah, it was really cool to get out and about. But hey, listen, once again, great to be on board with you guys. Hope to maybe jump on again before the end of Super Rugby.
Now, so on that one, look, a fantastic achievement for him. Well done. But boy, oh boy, he should have been knocked down to the Bs by a younger player, right? He shouldn't have 300 games to the club, sure, but 300 Premier games? No, that shouldn't be. Players shouldn't be doing that.
We're talking Wellsford here. Paul, I think even the females outnumber the males up in Wellsford. Sometimes you just gotta not only you're doing the dishes in the kitchen and putting the kai on, but you've also got to put the Premier jersey on. And credit to Stu, he still looks pretty fit to me, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Look, as someone who's only ever played one, well, actually no, two. Sorry, it was on the same day though, but two Golden Oldies game for a rugby club. Yes, I'm not one to talk. But for more females and males, by the way, folks, see you all later because I'm just about to sell my house and move to Wellsford. Catch you all later, and see you next Monday at 8 p.m. Stay safe, everybody.